Hey guys, and welcome back to the channel. It's been super rainy here in Korea. It's kind of been like typhoon season and then also just super rainy season, and it's like there's a lot of lightning everywhere, so you might notice it or you might not. Anyhow, thank you so much for signing the petitions. If you are a Korean citizen or somebody who has a resident registration number, thank you for signing the official National Assembly petition to ask for a full scientific-based investigation and the release of the CCTV footage from the night of Son Jung Min's disappearance at the Han River. The signatures have crossed the 50,000 mark, so we're more than halfway there. And we have until September 18th, so that is very good news. And the change.org petition that I made as just a symbol of our collective support has gotten almost 500 signatures, so thank you to all of the support that you have shown for that, and then also making donations so that it promotes itself out. I didn't know that was change.org's a way to get funded, and I think that's a very smart way. Instead of asking for like, oh, can you support our site, they've basically said support this petition's visibility, like pay for it to be shown to more people by contributing to the site. So when you contribute to it, basically it goes to change.org, and then they promise to show it to random people, I guess, who might care about it. So thank you to all of you who have pitched in for that to get it to more eyeballs out there. And I put a lot of links to the video, so hopefully there will be more people who can see what's going on. I mean, at the end of the day, it's how we feel about it. And that's kind of like where I want to go with this, because yes, SJM's father has put up some blogs, new posts, and he's talking about essentially trying to bring down Mr. A's claims about blackout and his testimony. We'll get to that in a future video, but I want to get to this feeling that I've been having, and I think a lot of you guys have been having as well, about the police. And how it seems as if they're, like, I've wanted to be a really big fan of the police and try to really support them in their whole campaign to try to get more power in South Korea, because they have been really trying to be on par with the prosecution. They've always complained that they're always kind of like second fiddle to the prosecution. They're basically like they think that they're like the lapdogs to the prosecution. They have to always like turn over any kind of evidence that they make to the prosecutors, and they get to decide whether somebody gets to be prosecuted or criminally charged. But now, looking at the Burning Sun case, even in more detail, because of what's come out recently, with one of the reporters who's been closely covering it, it's been really disconcerting because there are a lot of parallels to the SJM case. And a lot of you guys have been really asking me to cover the Burning Sun case, and I've been a little bit trying to figure out like how to not make it so anti-Seungri, but not about Seungri, but make Seungri have responsibility, but then also acknowledged how much he was being used in this case as well as a distraction. So let's get into this, and this might be a multi-part video so that we can just compartmentalize it to make it like a multi-course meal, because there's a lot of juicy parts. Alright, let me give you the appetizer first, and I hope you will like it, and I think you will, because, and I promise we'll get to Burning Sun, but this whole thing is about VIP people and their antics in a club and their ability to get away with it. And of course, as the Seoulite, you want me to give you some personal experience. And I don't want to give you like my personal experience, but I will give you my personal experience heard by a friend of mine who got slashed in the neck by a crazy VIP girl. So this was a long time ago. This was back in 2009 or 2010. And this was way back before Burning Sun. So this is when like the hot place was at like, I think the W Hotel. And I don't even think the W Hotel really, I think exists in the way that it did back then. But there was kind of like the hip, cool kind of like club / bar back then over there. It's kind of far. But that was kind of like one of the hot places to go. And there was a Halloween party. And this was like a few years before Korean people just really got into the trend of dressing up for Halloween. So this was a time when not a lot of Korean people were dressing up for Halloween. So my friend, let's just call her Amy. She's Korean American, beautiful girl. And she and a couple of her non-Korean friends, maybe about 4 of them, dressed up as like space invaders. They went to American Apparel. They got this kind of like, they just got the outfits together. They went over there, and this was like one of the few places that was having a Halloween party, and it's a little bit more westernized. But still, there were not a lot of people like, being all Halloweeny. It was kind of like a mixed crowd. So they were just on the dance floor being like kind of all fun and bubbly, but I guess that started to piss off maybe some of these frigid, like spoiled VIP princesses at the VIP tables. And these princesses decided to start like throwing food at my friends. Like fruit and maybe like, I don't know, M&Ms or chips or whatever they gave at the VIP table. They started throwing it, just kind of like taunting them, like Mean Girls. And so then my friend Amy just was like, okay, went up to the table and just went like this, like, what is your problem? And then this is apparently like when I guess Amy sort of started to sort of black out, because next thing she knows, she comes to, she's outside the hotel, like, kind of like the curb area where like the valets are, and she is bleeding from the neck. And then witnesses say that the girl that was like throwing and stuff, like they had got into a physical altercation, and that girl had taken a vodka bottle from the VIP, the bottle service, smashed it on the table, and then, it became like a weapon, like a jagged, like knife, and then went for her neck and just slashed it. And that is why she had like this cut that was bleeding, and then she had to go to the hospital. Yeah, crazy. So I was just like, that's attempted murder. So I was, I wasn't there. I wasn't going to go to like some Halloween party all the way over there, please. And so I was like, that is crazy. Did you track her down? Was there CCTV? And she was like, yeah, actually, I think it'll be okay because my uncle works for SK, and SK is kind of like the corporation that owns the hotels and they manage all the properties. So she was like, I think this will work out because he'll be able to, pull some strings and get the CCTV coverage and find out who that girl is, and we'll get to the bottom of this, right? And so like we're like, yeah, like naive Americans, we're like, yeah, she's gonna get in trouble, like we'll find her, like we're gonna track her down, and she's gonna go to, like, we'll go report it to the police or something. Well, turns out then it kind of gets delayed, and I was just like, hey, what's going on? Like, this is kind of weird. And, she's like bandaged still. And like, I was like, is that going to scar? Like, what's going on? And she's trying to get like, go to the dermatologist to get like laser treatments. And then like, she's like, yeah, my uncle is like kind of being like vague about like what's going on. Like the CCTV was there, wasn't there now. It's kind of like a little shady. And then after a while, she said like, oh, they were saying like maybe I should just talk to, they were able to track down the girls and her mother, and so they got the phone number, and she talked to the mother, and she got her like while the mom was like golfing somewhere, and she said like she was just started to talk to the mom started yelling at her and just like attacking her, saying like she's some gold digger or something, like she just all she wants is money or something, and she's like, what is going on? Well, I'll tell you what was going on. Apparently that little VIP princess outranked my friend's uncle, because yes, my friend's uncle was like an executive at SK, but that VIP princess was like the daughter of like one of the family members of the SK family. So obviously that's when you know, like, you know, at first it goes well because it's like, oh yeah, you know, like, okay, you know, like, and probably everybody at the office is like, oh yeah, we'll get down, you know, we'll get to the bottom of this, and then suddenly they're like, oh, we got to the bottom of this, and this is who was at the bottom, and she's actually at the top. And oh, like, yeah, do you want to keep your job? So like, that's when you know, like, so then basically all she had left at that point was basically a nice scar as a souvenir of her time, her wonderful time in Korea. Yeah. So fair. And I don't know what that girl is doing now. I don't know how many vodka bottles she's broken and used as weapons, and whenever she's gotten into an argument, because after that she's learned that that works and that's effective and that she can get away with it. And that's kind of like my point now, is that that was like 10 years ago, and that was shocking. But now, compared to this whole burning sun thing, you multiply that, you give that 10 years to grow, and now here at 2021, and even though burning sun was like 2018, 2019, we are in a whole different level because we didn't stop stuff like that back in 2010. So I wanted to give that as the appetizer because I do think it's somewhat related, because it's this whole system together, and I wanted to focus on two main storytellers of this story. The first is the whistleblower who started it all. And people were wondering, like, who is this guy? And I wanted to know more about this guy. So I'm going to tell you more about who he is, because he's fascinating. And he's not the bad guy that people are, painting him out to be. And then second is a reporter's kind of year-long reflection on the saga and what he wishes he could have said more in the reporting when it came out. And so he's been able to add more juicy details on this YouTube interview that he did with his media company's channel. And so I'll tell you more about that. But essentially what the theme of the whistleblower is saying, like, there's no other country in the world, he thinks, than Korea, where you can cover up something as big and scandalous as burning sun or any kind of crime. And definitely, I think that is related to our SJM case. And it, of course, deals with almost the same police department, the police department in the area of Seoul and Gangnam. And then the main theme about the reporter is that the way that people in power can redirect the public focus. Remember our whole concept of the Jason theory, like when you are in a bind and you're about to get caught, you blame it on something else and then you let that be the fall guy, and suddenly the main issue, the main crime, nobody's paying attention to it. So the whole burning sun incident, when I say burning sun, what do you think of and what do you think the crime is? Most likely you're thinking of Seungri, Big Bang, prostitution, embezzlement, drugs, and gambling. But that was not the main issue. The main issue was essentially creating a system where ordinary girls in Korea were being commoditized for rape and sold, and having the police also participate in the cover-up. And then have drugs on top of that.